Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Inshallah ta'ala, tonight's lecture is going to be a little of a different subject. Usually we're always discussing something related to aqidah, fiqh issue, tafsir, meanings of a hadith. Tonight inshallah we'll actually have a look at a brief biography of one of the greatest scholars of Islam, because this is very important. Like the sciences of Islam, knowing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our aqidah, aspects of the sunnah, aspects of fiqh, biography, especially with the Prophet about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba, and then the biographies of the ulama. This is extremely important, especially when we live in a generation where most people don't know the scholars of Islam. They don't even know the scholars of present times, let alone scholars of the past. And especially our youth, our sons and daughters, they know more about the singers and actors and actresses, but they don't know anything about the ulama of old. So the scholar that we'll talk about today, briefly, and of course, and I repeat briefly because the biographies of these ulama can be talked about for days and weeks and months. And who I'm going to talk about is Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, who was from Khurasan, present day Turkmenistan. He's from Merv, Turkmenistan. This is the present day name of it. That's where he was born, and in the year 118 Hijri. And Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, other scholars, contemporary scholars like Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he had a statement about Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak that he is the scholar of the East and the scholar of the West. That's the level of knowledge he had attained by Allah's rahmah, which we shall see. Abdullaah ibn Mubarak is one of the scholars from whom Imam Bukhari narrated and collected from. Abdullaah ibn Mubarak also studied with Abu Hanifa and many other scholars of that generation, but he excelled most of them in certain aspects, as we shall see. But first, Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, his father Mubarak, he was a slave, and he was a Turk, originally a Turk, and he belonged to a merchant from Banu Hanzala as a slave, but he was a very pious man, a very good righteous Muslim. And there's a story, as Imam al-Dhahabi rahimahullah recorded, that Mubarak, Abdullah ibn Mubarak's father, he was told by his master that, bring me something sweet. He was requesting some dessert. So Mubarak came back and he brought something, and it wasn't sweet, it was actually sour. So the master said, "How do you not know the difference between sweet and sour? I asked you to bring something sweet for me to eat. You brought me something sour." So Mubarak told his master, "I don't know what you are asking for because I never tasted the sweetness that you're talking about. I don't know. This is all I know." So the master said, "Why didn't you ever eat sweet? I mean, who hasn't eaten halwa of some type, right?" So Mubarak said, "You never gave me permission. I'm working in your house. So without your permission, I never had any food." So when he asked, "Why is this the case?" He said, "I fear Allah. You're my master. I can't. This is your house. I work for you. I don't touch anything without your permission," even though he's been there for years and years. So the master of Mubarak was amazed that, subhanallah, you have this type of taqwa, that, I'm a rich man, the whole palace is is yours. So I'm not here when no one is here. You don't touch it. He's like, "No, I fear Allah. I know Allah is watching. These things don't belong to me. It's your property, so I do not take anything without your permission." So then that night, the master of Mubarak talked with his wife, the master's wife, and said, our slave Mubarak, this is what he told me. Then both the master and his wife said, Wallahi, we will not find a better husband for our daughter than Mubarak. The master saw the taqwa, and both him and his wife agreed easily. Even though Mubarak didn't ask, he said, we are looking for a husband for our daughter, and we are a noble family. How are we going to find a better Muslim than this Mubarak? So the master gave his daughter to his slave. He freed him and then married him to his own daughter. So when the father is like this and the grandparents are like this, then of course Allah gave birth, caused Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak to be born in this type of household. So from Mubarak's wife, this master's daughter, this is who gave birth to Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak. So just right there shows to you that Allah has something major planned for this family. That everyone in this family thinks this way, that money, wealth, status, no, taqwa. Who is going to be the best son-in-law, the best Muslim leader for my daughter? Right? He didn't care. So anyways, so Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, his father is now free, so he did the master helped him set up some business. Right? Not just gave the daughter, but also helped him set up some business. So Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, he grew up in a household that was involved in business. Mubarak was a merchant. But from a very young age, he loved reading. Anytime he saw books, he loved to read. To the point that when his father Mubarak was older, he was annoyed that, you don't help your father in the work. I have a business to run. Even when you're not in school, any free time you get, you don't help your father. You're always reading. So one day his father Mubarak got upset. You know what? I'm going to burn all of your books. So Abdullaah ibn Mubarak said, okay, you can burn my books, but it's all in here. By that time he had already, every book that he read, he used to memorize it. He says, okay, fine, burn the book, but the knowledge is already in my mind. So much so that his school friends, it's been recorded that one of his, and he was very young at that age. He had heard something once. Anytime a teacher had gave a lecture once or anything, once was enough. He never made any teacher repeat something a second time. Immediately he would memorize at just once. So as he grew older and older, he got into more and more into religious knowledge. Then he decided to leave the Khurasan area because all the scholars of Mecca, Medina, and Kufa, he wanted to meet with them. He wanted to learn from them. So he decided to leave, and this was in the year 141. So he was 23 years old. Until 23 years, he always stayed in his hometown. He helped with his father's business. He was learning from whatever he could, but then he decided that he's going to take the path to knowledge. He's going to learn whatever it is. Because by that time, when he was 23, everyone in his town, if they ever had needed a mas'ala, any type of matter came up, they all knew that just go to Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. So he left that whatever this town had to offer me, I have acquired. I need more knowledge. There's no more knowledge left in this town. I learned everything, memorized everything. So that's when at the age of 23, he decided to leave the Khurasan area. So then he traveled to Yemen, to Egypt, to Asham, the whole area, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, the entire area of Asham. He went to Basra, Kufa, which were the big towns of Iraq at that time of knowledge. So there was no city that was known as the center of knowledge from every part. He went to all of those towns to learn. And he was to the point that Imam al-Dhahabi titled him that this was the person who loved taking journeys, the journeyman. He traveled for the sake of knowledge. He loved it. He would go to any town, learn everything that there is, go to another town, go to another town. So likewise, he went to every major city of Islamic education at that time. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he mentioned about Abdullaah ibn Mubarak that there was no one at the time of Abdullah who sought more knowledge than he did. There was no one in this ummah. Everyone knew of him. Even if they never saw him face to face, everybody at that generation knew his name because of the amount of studying he used to do and the amount of traveling that he used to do. And Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, as Imam Ahmed continues, he said that he used to learn, memorize and write. He had his own books, own notes. It did not matter if the person was old, young, gender, nothing. If anyone had knowledge to give, he would sit, listen and write the knowledge. He gave everyone respect. That if someone had any type of beneficial knowledge, he would record it. And Imam al-Hasan al-Basri, we know he was another great scholar. Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he went to Basra just to hear one of the statements of al-Hasan al-Basri. And that's how serious he was. That just one sentence from a scholar that I know is very famous, but I want to hear it straight from his mouth, so I can record it that I heard directly from so-and-so. So this is how he used to be. And also, Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, as we mentioned, that his ability or his willingness to write everything that he recorded, to the point that when his son died, Abdullaah ibn Mubarak's son died, a Majusi meaning fire worshipper, Zoroastrian, and Iran had that area had a lot of these followers of this religion. So a Majusi came to visit, and Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, he was kind-hearted, everybody knew him. So even a disbeliever came to give condolences to Abdullaah ibn Mubarak after the death of his son. So he said that, be intelligent, be patient, don't be like the ignorant ones who behave in a certain way after something that is known that will happen. Death is something that everybody knows, right? Doesn't matter what religion, even an atheist knows that human beings will die either today or tomorrow. So this Majusi, he said to Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, today do what the intelligent people do. Don't behave like the juhal, the ignorant person. So Abdullaah ibn Mubarak knew that my son died, he's talking about sabr. And at that moment, he asked one of his assistants, bring me my notebook. Let me write this statement from this Majusi. Right? He reminded me of sabr. And this is behave like intelligent people. Don't be like the ignorant people. So he said, this is how he used to be. Doesn't matter what religion someone was from, if he said something beneficial in terms of the dunya and the akhirah, he would memorize, he would note, and he would write it down. This is the adab, or the manners of a true, sincere seeker of knowledge. That doesn't matter where the knowledge comes from. If it's true, if it's beneficial, he'll take it, he'll record it, and he'll apply it in his life. So as a student of knowledge, Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, rahimahullah, he also gave a lot of respect to the seniors. Like one incident that happened, someone had asked a question, and in that gathering was also Sufyan ibn Uyayna, rahimahullah, who was the contemporary for Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. So Sufyan ibn Uyayna was there, so was Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. So somebody came, and he asked Abdullaah ibn Mubarak a question, but he stayed quiet. So he asked the question again. He's like, why aren't you giving the answer? He's like, no, my sheikh is here. Even though I know the answer, I'm not going to answer. My teacher is here. So you ask him. So this is the adab of Islam. And you look, even the Sahaba, if someone came and asked them a question and the Prophet ﷺ was present, they never dared open their mouth. Even if Abu Bakr or Umar knew the answer, they would look to the Prophet to give the answer. Or the younger Sahaba, if they knew that the senior Sahaba were present, they never opened their mouth. This is the respect that you have to give, that when you're learning, if you truly have knowledge, you may know the answer. But however, in that gathering, everybody knows that there is someone more knowledgeable than you present. Everybody knows that this is a teacher, whatever may be the case. Out of respect for the knowledge, you stay quiet and let the senior person in terms of ilm answer that question. So this was the adab that all the ulama used to follow, just like the Sahaba. And then also in one other incident that happened, Hamad ibn Zayd, who was another famous scholar of hadith, huge scholar of hadith at that time. He actually never met Abdullaah ibn Mubarak face to face until this day. So he knew about Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. So when Abdullaah ibn Mubarak went to him and sat, and Hamad asked him, "Where are you from? Where did you come from to learn from me?" So he said, "I came from Khurasan." So he said, "Oh, you came from Khurasan? You know there's a alim, a talib al-ilm by the name of Abdullaah ibn Mubarak?" He said, "Yes." So it's like, "Which town are you from?" After he asked them that I'm from Merv. So that's why it's like, in your town, in that area, there's a famous student by the name of Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. So he said, "Yes, I know that." So then Hamad asked, "What do you think he's doing right now?" So Abdullaah ibn Mubarak said, "At this moment, he is learning from you." so he had a nice sense of humor too. So then Hamad realized that he was talking to Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. Because back then, of course, there was no media, no newspapers, pictures, anything like that. So they knew the name, but they never saw the face. So then Hamad, he got up, he greeted him extra. It's like, "Oh, subhanAllah, this is you." So this was one of the funny stories that happened. But anyways, so then he gathered the knowledge of fiqh, of hadith, of Arabic grammar, literature. He was also a famous poet. And then on top of that, he was known for his bravery. He also made jihad against the Romans. And he was known for his wealth as well. And we'll see that in a little while. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him literally knowledge of everything. The dunya and the akhirah. And every aspect of Islam he had a role in. Whether it became, and as I mentioned, he was one of the people from whom Imam Bukhari collected hadith from in his Sahih al-Bukhari, right? So he was very well known for hadith. And in terms of fiqh, in terms of his zuhud, how detached he was from the dunya, his piety, and he was a mujahid and a very, very successful businessman. And he used to be known for his ibadah. So everything that was khair, the people knew about him. And so now this was his ability to travel, learn from these big scholars of his time, to the point that he excelled them. He excelled his teachers eventually. And that's how he became more and more famous. Now Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, as a businessman, he was extremely, extremely successful. And to the point that he used to make Hajj frequently, not just make Hajj by himself. Every year, thousands of people from his area would make Hajj with his money. Right? So he had a very successful business. And he used to learn business, which many people don't know. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah was also a very successful businessman. So not just fiqh issues, he also learned how to do business from Abu Hanifa. And this is something that unfortunately nowadays, our generation or the previous or the last two generations, anyone who thinks that you got into religious studies, people automatically think you must be dumb. Right? Unfortunately, right? But look at these ulama of the old. They were intelligent people. Because when you really learn the deen, Allah will make you intelligent about dunya matters too, right? It's only those who don't really know the deen properly that they are also, in terms of dunya, they're also not successful. They don't have intelligence. They're not really that smart. So anyways, he learned the art of business, many of those ideas and the ways to do business from Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. And with Abu Hanifa, as much as he used to learn the deen, he used to learn the skills of business from Abu Hanifa as well. So he did both of them simultaneously. So then Abdullaah ibn Mubarak, he saw business, that's all he used to do. Either seek knowledge, teach, or do his business. And he had this philosophy that you are a talib al-ilm, you're a student of knowledge. Don't be dependent on anybody. You work for Allah. You're learning His religion and you're spreading His religion. So have businesses. This is also from the Sunnah. The Prophet ﷺ was a businessman. Many of the Sahaba were business people. All the well-off Sahaba were business people. And this is something that I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, as well, because these are some aspects of Islam. Due to ignorance, not a lot of people know this. Umar radiallahu anhu was the first one. He publicly had said this. It is not appropriate for Muslims to work for the kuffar. You are a Muslim, your boss is Allah. So follow the sunnah. Be your own boss, set up businesses. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the sunnah of the Sahaba. So even if you have a skill, right? If you got a degree, whatever may be the case, if you're a doctor, open your own clinic. This is more encouraged from Islam. You are your own businessman / doctor. You have your own clinic, right? So always look for ways as a Muslim where you can be your own boss, depending on Allah. This is from the Sunnah. And especially living in non-Muslim lands, no Sahaba ever approved that a Muslim should be an employee for a disbeliever. It's just not appropriate. Allah honored you. You are a Muslim, right? So this is something that you want to have in the back of your heads, especially, let's say, the young brothers and sisters. Let's say, of course, your parents didn't have a lot of opportunities, right? When they came here as immigrants, they didn't have a lot of opportunities. They're working day and night just so you can have a better life. So your children need to understand this. Teach them from now that when you grow up, get your education, but be a boss, be a leader. You are a Muslim, you depend on Allah, you want to lead the way for other people. All right? Not be a follower. Especially not under somebody. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he practiced this, these interpretations of the Sahaba, these advices from the Sahaba to the core. So he never worked for anyone in a day of his life. Never. Right? So even when he used to work with his father, he learned the trade, then he set up his own branch of his business. And Allah gave him lots of success. And what it was, he had so much money that Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, who was also one of the famous historians, he recorded an incident that happened with Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak when he was in the Baghdad area learning. Somebody asked him that you're always talking about zuhud, you're talking about the akhirah, you know, don't care about the dunya, your akhirah is the main life of the Muslim. You're always talking like this in your khutbahs and your lectures and your durus. Why do you have so much money? Because a lot of people, they think that if you are religious, it means you have to live a poor life. No, where does Allah say that, right? So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak replied to him, because this was a very strange question. It's like, the money, Allah blessed me with the money, but whatever wealth I acquire, I do this to protect my honor. No one can say I'm dependent on them, and Allah has given me rizq, I do it fi sabilillah, right? So he left it general. He didn't obviously start speaking about his good deeds and how he used to spend the money. So what better way can I fulfill that I'm learning, I'm spreading the deen, and also if Allah blesses me with wealth, I'm also spending that fi sabilillah. How is this bad, right? So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, subhanallah, he used to use all of his income. You know, live generously himself, whatever is needed for him and his family. Everything else, he would always regularly give it as charity. Like, for example, one of the incidents that happened, during Hajj every year, he would go and take the people from his family, take the people from his city. He would collect, he would gather all the people who are going for Hajj. He'll say, you know what, I'll be your guide. And everybody, oh, Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak will be our guide. This is, who doesn't want an alim to be the guide so they can do the Hajj properly, right? He knows everything, so many people know him. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak used to bring like a box. And he would tell every one of these people who are traveling for Hajj, whatever money you have, empty your pockets, whatever it is that you have planned for the journey, put it in this box. And he would write the name, that this person gave 100 dinar or this, whatever it is. He would keep it in the box. And the people trusted him. They just assumed that, okay, he's collecting the money because he's going to be the guide. Whatever financial need we have in the trip, he will spend from that. You know, and they knew he's also good with business, so they trusted him. So he kept all the people's money, and we're talking about thousands of people. He kept their money in the box, noted them. So then he went. Then he left Baghdad, and before leaving, he told the people, you guys, do you have money to get new clothes? You're going to visit Masjid al-Nabawi. You're going to visit the Kaaba. You're going for Hajj. Look nice. So the people said, no, whatever money we have is for the trip. So he would go to the stores in Baghdad, and Baghdad, of course, was a vibrant city. We all know this from our history. He would buy the best of clothes for every single one of these Hujjaj and give them, here, wear this. You're going to visit Allah's house, once in a lifetime opportunity. Look nice when you're going for Hajj, right? Put on the ihram clothes there, but at least for the travel, look nice, feel good. So everyone was given clothes. He bought the clothes, but they're still thinking it's the money from the box, right? So he bought the clothes and they wore it. And then for the Hajj, ample food, meat, dessert, so much food that they would fill their bellies and perform the rituals. And so then they stopped at Medina. They prayed in Masjid al-Nabawi. Before he took this group, he said, did your family, your wives and children, did they ask you to take something back? This is something that all Muslims used to do. A lot of brothers and sisters, when they go for Hajj and Umrah, they get annoyed. Man, my wife said, bring this gold bracelet, this, I came. Don't be annoyed, right? Finish your ibadah first, then on your way back, bring some stuff for your family. Everybody used to do this. So before leaving Medina for Mecca, Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak asked everybody in the group, did your children and your wives ask for stuff to bring back? He's like, yes. So he made a note of what did they ask, made a note of everything. Again, went to the souk of Medina, bought everything that they had asked for. Now let's go to Mecca for the Hajj. While at Hajj, anything that they needed, food, dessert, whatever it is. And then before leaving Mecca to go back to Baghdad, he asked them again, did your families also ask for anything specifically from Mecca? So they said yes, such and such and such. Went to the market, bought everything, gave it to them. Then he returned back to Baghdad with these groups of people, and he returned the box with everybody's name and the amount of money. And he said, SubhanAllah, where were you spending all this money from? He's like, no, this is from me to you. And he did this every single year. So imagine how much money he had. He never took money from those Hujjaj. He would collect it, he would feed them, buy them gifts for his family, and so on and so forth. Then one time what happened, because even the people of Mecca, they knew that the rich man Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak is going to come with lots of groups of people. We can make a lot of business. He's going to literally buy out the entire store for his people because he comes with thousands. So one year, he didn't make it to Hajj. So then some people, they found out, like, what happened? Where's Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak? He didn't come for Hajj. So then another scholar of that time, Qadi Iyad, he was known for his fiqh. He was the Qadi, the judge. He was a very close friend of Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak throughout his life, right? So Qadi Iyad, he knew what happened. That, he sent the message, people are asking, where are you? And then, in the meantime, while he's in Baghdad, some people came back from Hajj and said, they were giving him thanks. Thank you for the food and the clothes and this and that. And Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak was confused. I didn't even go for Hajj this year. Who bought you? It's like somebody. He's like, Wallahi, I could have sworn that you gave me new garments for myself, from my family. You brought the dishes of food and this and that. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak said, no, I didn't even go for Hajj this year. And that by that time, Qadi Iyad had already sent a letter that people are asking what happened. It's like some people are asking why I'm not in Hajj, and other people are saying I was in Hajj and even bought them stuff. So what's going on? So then he told the people, just like every year, I had prepared to go for Hajj. Then, as he was about to leave Baghdad, he saw that a woman was crying in the street. And he asked, what's wrong with you? And she said, I lost everything. My parents have been killed. My whole family is killed. My father is just me and my younger brother. That's it. Somebody killed my father. Robbed him, took all his wealth, all his property, and killed him. So he said, where's your house? Where's your brother? Where's your town? So the woman got annoyed. Like, get away from me. I don't want to answer so many questions. I just lost my whole family. We have nothing left. We're in the streets and I have a baby brother to take care of, right? So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he felt very bad. And he said, where's your house? Just show me. I just want to meet some people, your family, whatever it is. So then he went, asked the villagers what happened, and everybody said, yes, this woman's father got robbed, got killed. They have nothing now. And we are also a poor town. We can't really help much. So then Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, whatever he had, including his riding animal that he was riding, the bags of money that he had for his own, he gave this family everything. Everything. To the point he had not even 1 dirham left to go complete his Hajj. So he returned home. This was the reason why he did not make Hajj that year. Right? So he wanted to give them something so they can start a fresh life. So then Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak was asking the people again, those who came and said that, Wallahi, I could have sworn you brought me food, you gave me this, you gave me that. So that night, as Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he's the one who mentioned this, that night I had a dream right before Fajr. I had a dream that someone told me, Allah accepted your niyyah for the Hajj. And Allah saw what you did. And it was from Allah that people were confused. And they thought it was you giving them the food and money. So they can still make dua for you. So this is what he saw in his dream. That this type of good news. And this is, of course we know this is based on hadith. That if you really make the niyyah for something, for whatever reason Allah wills that you did not complete it, and this was your regular habit, Allah will still reward you for it. Right? So this was one of the things that he used to do. Everyone who studied with him or that he used to gather, he would make sure that he paid their money. They didn't have to worry about work, just learn. He would set up, food for them, nice living places and things like that, right? So he took care of everybody financially. Anyone who had debts that he knew of, he would pay the debt for that person, whether he knew him or doesn't know him, doesn't matter. Anyone that, Ya Abdullah, Sheikh Abdullah, I'm in debt. I don't have the money to repay. He will pay off the person's debt. And we know this is from the Quran. One of the people that you give zakat to, those who are in debt, so they can pay off their debt, right? So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak would pay off the debts of everybody that came to him. He would also help other ulama so that they don't have to worry about money, just teach the religion, don't worry about money. Not every alim was blessed with good business or had the opportunity, right? Had the ability. So he would make sure that everyone had received a salary from him. Just here's your monthly salary. Just take it, teach, keep learning the deen, keep teaching it. Don't depend on anybody else. And don't tell anyone that you're looking for a job, whatever it is. So this is how he would take care of everyone. And subhanallah, he would spend hundreds and thousands of dirham every year in this manner, right? And this is what the historians have recorded. And let's say even if somebody spent 200,000-300,000 dirham at that time, we're talking about, billions probably now, right? So every year he would make sure he spent all this money. So imagine how much successful of a businessman he was. Allah gave him tons of money. But just like Allah gave, he would give in Allah's path, and Allah would keep on giving, keep on giving. So then, Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, as we mentioned, he was a great hadith scholar. He is one of the people who narrated to people like Imam Bukhari in his Sahih. He was also known for the sciences of criticizing and scrutinizing hadith, what is Sahih, what is Da'if, and things like that. So he was known for that knowledge. And he was like a muhaddith in his own right, a scholar of hadith in his own right. And on top of this, as we mentioned, Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he also was a mujahid. He fought the Romans. And there's a story that's been recorded, an incident from one of the battles in Tarsus that was against the Romans. That one Roman, and back then it was the Muslim army, the Roman army would meet, then one of the strongest soldiers would step forward and challenge for a duel, right? This is how the people used to fight back then. So this one Roman soldier, he killed 6 of the Muslim soldiers. And he was boasting that, no Muslim today will be able to win a duel against me. We Romans came to win. So then the people who knew Abdullaah ibn Mubarak's strength, his fighting skills, he was in the back of the army. So he said, this is what's going on. That Roman soldier that came forward, he's challenging more and more Muslims. But he already killed 6 of our brothers. So Abdullaah ibn Mubarak said, I accept his challenge. And he told this friend of his that if I die, do such and such with my wall, this, that, whatever may be the case. So then he went. And subhanAllah, he killed this Roman soldier. And to make it even, he challenged until 6 of the Roman soldiers were killed. And of course, Allah always gives victory to the believers. After the 6th Roman soldier was killed by him, no other soldier stepped forward. They got scared. Right? So this was his fighting skills too in the battlefield. That he knew how to fight, he was strong. And when he was not fighting in the battlefields, whenever he had time, he would be a guard over the Muslim property, the borders. This is actually a very noble job. That if you're guarding the Muslim lands from enemy attacks, you're the guard there. So he would from time to time serve in the army in that manner. That he would be just as a guard, waiting. And of course, while he's as a guard, he would still continue his studies at night and throughout the day. Even while there, he will take his books and everything. So we see that he excelled in his knowledge, his wealth, in how he distributed his wealth. And then, of course, as a mujahid, he was a well-known, strong fighter. And then, not just in hadith, but as a faqih, as a scholar of fiqh. He was known as the faqih of Khurasan, the faqih of that entire region. And Khurasan is that old name of present-day Afghanistan, Iran, Turkmenistan. This whole area was known as Khurasan at that time. So he was the faqih of that entire region, of that entire Muslim region. No one knew more fiqh than him. So if they needed fatwa, they would come to him. So he excelled as a faqih as well. And all of these scholars, like Sufyan ibn Uwaynah, then had the statement that he is the scholar of the East, meaning east of Mecca and Medina, as well as the scholar of the West. West of whatever came, west like Egypt and all those other places, this is west of Mecca and Medina. So he was the scholar of the East and the West. And also Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he was known for his poetry. He would sometimes, many times, the knowledge while teaching, he would put it in poem form. And this was a way of many of the scholars before. Nasheed back then would be poems that they used to memorize that made that science easier. It's not like today, modern day nasheed, people are still recording and humming and buzzing and using musical instruments. This is haram, this is music. Right? So nasheed back then, the scholars would put sciences together in poem form. So they will memorize the poem and they'll understand the rules, because every verse in the poem is like a rule, especially when it came to the different qira'at of the Quran. There's poems about that. Then the poems about the hadith terminology and the hadith terms and the sciences of hadith, and so on and so forth. Fiqhi rulings, poems about that. Aqidah issues, poems about that. So he was known for that as well. He would make his own poems, teach it to people, and they will get a lot of benefit from those poems of his. And Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak also authored many books. He was a writer as well. Books on tafsir, books on history. He wrote his poems. He wrote books on raqa'iq, meaning heart softeners, and many other subjects. And he wrote on jihad issues. He had Kitab al-Jihad. He collected 260 hadith from the Prophet ﷺ about the rules and regulations of jihad. So this is a book by Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, right? 260 hadith, that's a lot. And that's all about the rules and regulations, that what is truly jihad in Islam and things like that. And Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, once he saw a person, he was intentionally living a poor life, even though Allah gave him ability, right? So he asked him, what's going on with you? So he said, no, I am disconnected from the dunya. I don't want anything from the dunya. My life, I'm trying to be the best Muslim I can. I only focus on the akhirah. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak told him, intentionally living in poverty is not a sign of zuhud. Allah gave you, rather you're being ungrateful to Allah. He gave you the ability to make wealth. Allah didn't ask you that you intentionally remain poor. This is not a sign of zuhud, right? So a lot of people, they will think this, that no, if I am religious, I have to be poor. But everything is a trial. Sometimes Allah gives fitna to people with poverty. Sometimes the wealth is a poverty fitna for other people. So he said, no, what is important? If Allah gave you the ability, you work, you earn money, provide for yourself and your family, halal rizq. That's what is important, that your rizq is halal, and after you get the rizq, what do you do for Allah's religion with that money? Sadaqah, this, that, do you do that or not? Then you would be a good or a bad wealthy person. But intentionally living a poor life, this is not a sign of zuhud. Rather, you're being ungrateful to Allah, who has given you the chances, but you're telling Allah, I don't want your chances, right? So this is how he explained things to people. Because he had that deep knowledge of the Quran and Hadith, and he understood these things. Also, during the time of Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, there were deviant sects of Islam, especially like the Mu'tazili. Mu'tazili is a sect that they deny the sifat of Allah, right? In this city, you won't have to look too far to find people like that, right? or a masjid that teaches that. So they deny the sifat of Allah, Allah's names and attributes. They used to say that the Quran is a creation, it's not the kalam of Allah, right? So they had really false aqidah. Also in his time, there were people who were the Qadariyah, all right? They denied Allah's qadr. They denied this, that there's nothing called Allah's qadr. And also the other very famous one was the Jahmiyyah sect. They also had major aqidah mistakes about Allah, about Arkan al-Iman. So these were very strong and widespread during his time. And he used to make jihad fi sabilillah, verbally, written explanations, because he didn't let them stay quiet. He used to explain to the people that the aqidah, we cannot stay quiet about. You have to preserve the aqidah that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with, right? The aqidah of the Sahaba, the aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah. So he was very strong against these deviant sects, and he would debate with them. He would argue with anyone, debate with intelligence, of course, and explain to them. And anyone who was confused, he would always make sure that aqidah came number one. Anyone who came to him to learn, he would make sure that he always taught the aqidah first and foremost, before all other sciences, and like sciences of hadith and other things like that. And he also used to be so strong, he would refuse to sit in the gatherings of these Jahmiyyahs or the Mu'tazili or whatever may be the case. That if you want to learn, come to our place, no problem. But I don't want to sit in your gatherings unless it is to explain to you the right aqidah. So he was very staunch and very strict about this, that I don't even want to be seen with the people of false aqidah. I don't want anyone to come and say, oh, Abdullah has made new friends from people of false aqidah. So he was very strong with those regards. You want to learn? No problem. We'll teach everybody. But that friendship, no, you deny Allah's names and attributes, you're this, you're that, you deny many of a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So he was very strong in these regards, that he would be very careful who he would choose as friends, right? He was extremely careful that only the best of the Muslims were his friends, and the knowledgeable of the people were his friends. And he would stay far away from any type of deviant aqidah or followers of those people, unless it was for teaching them. And also Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he actually told some people that who he saw, once he noticed that some people, they were from Ahlul Sunnah, but they were sitting and learning and listening to the lectures of these deviant people, right? The Jahmiyas and Qadariyah and so on. So then the next day when he saw these people, he told them, "Oh my brothers," and he would always be very kind. Even though he was very strong, it wasn't that he was rude, right? He had strong iman, but he had very polite speech. And he told these people that you are my brothers. I want to give you some nasiha, some very sincere advice. And he told them that if you consider yourself from Ahlul Sunnah, you understand that Ahlul Sunnah is the right way. This is a ni'mah from Allah. Don't be ungrateful to Allah by sitting in these gatherings of Ahlul Bid'ah. Allah blessed you that you understand the right aqidah. Don't ruin this ni'mah from Allah. Right? Because this is not good. You're sitting there and learning. You're not telling them or you're not teaching them. You're literally sitting there and listening, not correcting them, not doing anything. So he reminded them that this is a ni'mah from Allah, that you understand Ahlul Sunnah is the right way. So if you are with them, teach them. Don't just sit quietly and approve of what they're doing. Then you're not being grateful to Allah for the blessing that He gave you. Right? So he reminded them that we will all die and we will return to Allah. And Allah will ask us about every gathering that we sat in. Did we educate the people? What did we do? So if you had the ilm, you sit in a gathering and you didn't teach anybody, Allah will ask you about that gathering as well. So he would talk, and then from that moment, those few brothers that he was talking to, they never sat in a gathering of Ahlul Bid'ah again, unless it was to actually share the knowledge of the truth. Right? So they learned their lesson, they got the point. So this is how he used to be, that we have to safeguard. Safeguard our aqidah, we have to keep preaching it and keep teaching it. And he would scrutinize if in those areas anybody came and said, "Oh, this is the hadith." He would scrutinize every person's name. Where did you get this from? Where did you get this from? And if it came that they came from these people of false aqidah, he would reject those statements. So he used to, because nowadays what do we do? Somebody said, "Oh, it's a hadith." "Oh, really? Where?" We don't ask, we don't verify anything. Right? We just hear and we say, "Yeah, we go ahead." But this was not the way of the scholars. They would scrutinize. What's the source? Where did you hear it from? Right? Who told you? So this is how he was throughout his life. Then we mentioned about his skills in jihad. Now, the last thing, he was known for his ibadah. So these were his teaching skills, learning skills, his wealth, his strength in the battlefield, but then also his regular ibadah. He was known, and this of course was known after his death from his family. He would always pray Qiyamul Layl, the Tahajjud prayers. He never missed reading the Quran. Every day he would review the Quran, right? And this is something that he never left. That if he would schedule his day, that some of the hours is just for Quran, reading the Quran. Some other hours for hadith and this and that. So he knew how to schedule his day and night very nicely. And he was a very strict scheduled man. So he was known for his ibadah, for his taqwa. He loved worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fasting. Any good deed that was there that he knew that he was able to do, he didn't leave that chance. He would always grab onto that opportunity and do that good deed. And he would also be known that many times he would come to the masjid at Asr time. From Asr to Maghrib, he would just sit. He would not answer people's questions. He would seclude himself, sit in a corner of the masjid, just read Quran and make dua. He didn't want anybody to bother him. So this is something that we have to remember, that even as teachers of the religion, everyone is required their private time. You need time for your own worship, for your own Quran, reading the Quran and things like that, for making dua, right? So a lot of times people, they get busy and busy and busy. This is an alim whose job is teaching the deen. Even he would tell people, don't do this. You have to get some hours of the day just for your own self, where you're crying to Allah, you're making sujood, just you and, there's no one who can see you except Allah. So what about the rest of everybody else who's working for dunya related issues, right? So definitely you do need time of seclusion, that's some hours of the day where you have your private conversation with Allah in dua, by reading the Quran, in salah, and so on and so forth. So he was known for this. And once what happened, a person came to Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak and he said, last night he was both, I prayed Qiyamul Layl. I read the entire Quran in tahajjud prayer. So Abdullah he wanted to show I did something great. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak said, well, I know a man last night, all he did in tahajjud was recite Alhaakum Takathur Hatta Zurtumul Maqabir. The entire night he just read this one surah. And he could not pass to any other surah. Now who's he talking about? Himself. Right? He's like, I know another man last night. So he's reminded the person don't boast. You can read the entire Quran in one night, but what did you understand from it? Big deal, you read the whole Quran in one night, right? But subhanAllah, look at him. Alhaakum takathur hatta zurtumul maqabir. That the people acquire the wealth from the dunya, right? And they will only find out when they enter in the graves that you're so busy with the dunya. Even though he was not busy with the dunya, but this surah struck him so much that the whole night all he did is just recite these few ayat. Because he was worried, am I becoming a man of the dunya? Am I becoming a man of the dunya? Even though his whole life, from the early age until that time, he's giving it fi sabilillah, right? So this is the sign of taqwa, that the more knowledge you have, the more fearful you will be of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? It's only those who don't know anything, they like to boast, yes, I have a lot of taqwa, I have a lot of iman. And subhanAllah, some people are like that. They'll directly tell you, I have a lot of iman, Shaykh. No one says this. You saying this is proof that you don't have iman, right? No one talks this way except an extreme foolish person. So you would hide these sins. And then he would always make sure that if any of his family members saw him in qiyam or this or that, he would make them a promise. Make them promise, do not tell anyone what you saw today. He would always make sure that even in his own house, his wife and children, no one sees him when he's reading the Quran, when he's in tahajjud prayers, whatever it is. But if by chance one of his family members saw it, he will make him swear by Allah, do not tell tomorrow what you saw, or how long I've been in salah. We know all these things after he died. So this is how he was. He was always very careful that I don't want any type of showing off. Any type of showing off. And then also, he was, in one particular night, he went to lay down, and one of his friends who was traveling with him, he pretended to be asleep. So he wanted to see what Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak does in the journey. And they're traveling, right? So he pretended to be asleep. And then he saw that Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, he woke up for salah. He literally prayed all the way up until the time of Fajr. The whole night he was in salah. So and then this Muhammad ibn Ayun, this is the one who one of his friends, student friends that recorded this. He said, "Wallahi, I would never have believed it if I had not seen it with my own eyes." And he didn't tell Abdullaah ibn Mubarak because he knew what he would have, he'll make me promise. He wanted to say this to the people, so he didn't even tell him that I was pretending to be asleep, but I saw what you did, right? So this is how he was known for his acts of worship. And Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he said that Allah did not raise in honor anyone or give more fear to anyone in our times more than in the lands of Khurasan, more than Abdullaah ibn Mubarak. He had the most taqwa in that whole region. And this was something that the scholars, they affirmed to, that just his behavior. Now here's something about, and I'll end with this story. He was also known, another title that the scholars gave him, that he was the Nasih al-Ummah, the advisor. Anytime he gave nasiha to people, you could tell, look at the example that I gave when he saw some people sitting with Ahlul Bid'ah. the advice that he used to give, people could tell that he is really being sincere. They felt it because coming genuinely from his heart. And no matter, even if it's someone who did not really like him, they took his advice because of this. They saw the sincerity, that he really wants good for me. This is why he's giving me this advice. Now, he was once asked that who are the people of virtue? Who are the most valuable, virtuous people in this dunya? He said the ulama. And then he said, then who are the kings? The muluk, who are the kings of this dunya? He said, those who have zuhud. The one who is able to restrain his nafs from the dunya. That's the real king. And the most virtuous person is an alim. Right? And that's what he used to abide by. And I'll end with this one other thing. Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, when he traveled in one situation, when he went to Medina to learn, somehow he didn't have pencil with him, right? So he loved writing, as we covered. So he borrowed a pencil from one of the other students. He wrote the note, he put it in his pocket, he forgot about it. He went back to Khurasan in his town. When he got down he was so busy learning, revising, he completely forgot. He came to his town as he got down from his, riding the chariot. He then touched his pocket and saw that he had the pencil. He went back to Medina to return the pencil. This is who he was. It's like, this doesn't belong to me. I borrowed it from you, I forgot. So the other, it was just a pencil. It's like, no, it doesn't. I don't want to meet Allah taking a property without your permission. Right? Now,
you could have called.
There was no phone. Right? Yeah. So he went back to Medina just to return a pencil. Subhanallah. So of course, these were the ulama, right? And they knew. And of course, scholars are still like this. This is the way that if you learn and sit with the scholars, you learn from the sincere tullabul ilm, see their character, see their honesty, just being with them. You learn from them. You see from their honesty. This is a huge benefit as it is, right? And this is why he even said that the alim, he is the most valuable thing in this dunya, the virtuous. Because, of course, we get tired. You're going to learn tafsir, hadith for what? Even if you go to somebody's house, you're eating dinner there, how long are you going to ask the sheikh questions? Right? But still, he might teach you how he eats, the type, or something simple as learning a wudu or something, I don't know, whatever may be the case, right? Just sticking with them, you benefit from them, from their knowledge, from their zuhud, from their iman, from their experience, right? So you have lots of things to learn from them. So any questions, inshallah, and sisters, pass it down. I know there may not be questions specific to the topic today, but any off topic is fine too. Yeah. Alaikum salam.
We established that if you have the ability to earn wealth, you should do so.
Yeah. Anas.
But after you earn the wealth, can you still lead a simple life and give sadaqah, not to sadaqah?
Yes, of course. I mean, this is the example that we had from him as well. He liked wearing nice clothes and things like that, but at the end of the day, how many nice clothes are you really need as one person, right? So even you look at the Prophet ﷺ, even if he had one thobe or two thobes, whatever may be the case, he kept himself nicely. And there's hadith. He never left his house without, he didn't have any stains or anything like that. He would always comb his hair, nicely groomed. This is from Islam, that look presentable, look nice, wear something nice, right? Smell nice for the men when you're outside. But the point, like let's say, even if you were to take today's example, if someone has millions of dollars, there's no problem if you can buy a nice house, nice car. You might need a couple of cars, especially in our generation. Family needs a car, you need a car. Okay, whatever it is. Let's say you need 2 cars at least, right? Buy yourself 2 nice cars. What's the problem? But anything excess, you certainly don't need 10 cars, right? You certainly don't need 10 cars. So this would be how the ulama who had lots of money, or the people of old, that yes, they earned wealth, they provided for themselves and their families, lived a nice life, but they kept a limit, right? They didn't have extravagant. There's a difference between being extravagant and being well taken care of. Okay, so they would be well taken care of with the money that Allah blessed them with. Anything extra, they would always give sadaqah, always be doing charity work, right? So this is the way of Islam, right? Don't be like the owner of IKEA. He's one of the richest men in the world. He still rides a bicycle. Man, subhanAllah, you've been deprived from everything, right? This is haram in Islam, right? Allah gave you billions of dollars. You're still riding a bike. You don't want to buy yourself a car. This is extremism. This actually shows you're ungrateful to Allah. He blessed you with wealth. Use some of it for yourself and your family. Don't live like a poor man, right? So this is not something that as Muslims we should do. So live a balanced life, not extravagant. And balanced life would differ from place to place. That also keep in mind, because the scholars made it very clear. Like even Imam Ibn Kathir in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, this is just going a little off topic, but to explain the issue. The ayah in Surah An-Nisa, Allah commanded men that وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, live with your spouses with ma'ruf, with kindness, with nice, in a nice way. So Imam Ibn Kathir, he mentioned that it is known to the ulama of Islam, ma'ruf, it differs from land to land. So based on your customs, so it can happen, right? You might, let's say you're from Pakistan or Bangladesh, you tell your relatives, oh, I bought a house for $100,000, and you're $100,000. They're converting into takas and rupees, right? But $100,000 house, which you bought, let's say in a halal way, is really nothing. It's one of the cheapest homes, nice cheap homes, right? That's the ma'ruf, the urf of this land. Don't worry about it. So you judge yourself based on where you live. This is even from the tafsir of the ayah. So balance life according to where you are, right? So don't be bothered if you get bullied by your relatives. Sometimes like that. It's like $100,000 might be what? Some crore rupees? I don't know. Yeah. So it's like, oh my God, you're living in a house that expensive? It's smaller than yours.
You go to McDonald's for one meal that can feed a family for 3 days.
Yeah, but this is what it is. Would another reason for letting someone higher in knowledge than you answer the question be because they can explain better? Yes, of course, that is also another reason. That sometimes you may know the answer, but someone who has more knowledge or experience may be able to explain the answer to the gathering or to the person in a better way, simply because he has more overall knowledge than you, right? So this is one of the benefits as well. Any other question? You have a question, Abid? Yeah.
Follow.
Go ahead.
How long did he stay in each town for learning?
That's not in detail recorded. Oh, I forgot to mention, he actually died at the age of 63, just like the Prophet ﷺ. So he died at the age of 63. So he achieved all these things. But he was always constantly traveling. From the age of 23 all the way to 63, he kept on traveling for these 40 years. And even though he was a rich man, when he died, there was not a single dinar or dirham left. He gave everything away. So he knew this was from Allah. Like he literally left with nothing. Yeah.
You said he recited Surah Takasur all night. Is it allowed to recite the same surah in every rakah?
Yeah, that's completely fine. That's completely allowed. The Prophet ﷺ himself did it. The Sahaba, there was a Sahaba. Every rak'ah he used to recite Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Every rak'ah. So the other Sahaba who prayed behind him, they got annoyed. What's wrong with you? Don't you know any other? Right? So they came to the Prophet ﷺ and complained. It's like every rak'ah, every time he leads the prayer, the first rak'ah, second rak'ah, after Fatiha, he recites Surah Ikhlas. Fajr, whatever it is, right? Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, doesn't matter. So he called that Sahaba, why do you do this? He said, I love this surah because it talks about Allah. That's why every rak'ah, I know the Quran, but in Salah, I just want to recite this. So the Prophet ﷺ smiled to the point that his molar teeth could be seen. And he said, let me give you the good news that Allah and His Messenger love you in return. So this was proof that if you want, you can recite one surah, the same surah every rak'ah too. But he did it with understanding. He knew the value of Surah Ikhlas. Right? That these are the attributes of Allah. It's describing Allah. And I love to keep repeating in Salah. So that's why, so this is also another hadith, proof that even in Fard Salah, if you wanted, you can read the same surah, no problem. Right? Yeah. You had a follow-up question. You forgot?
If I have more general knowledge than the next person, but the next person can have more specific knowledge on that subject. But I have a tendency to jump in and tell that person, you don't know, let me handle it, while I do not know enough about that.
This is something that we have to learn not to do this, okay? Anytime, let's say, especially, I don't know, let's say Abid and Anas are sitting, and Ilyas goes and asks Abid a question. Anas shouldn't jump in. The question was asked to him, he should answer. Now if he from his own says, hey, can you add anything else to it? Then you add. This is from the adab of, like you might be sitting with 3-4 people, but the question was directed at one person. Let him answer. Unless he from his own says, Fulan has more knowledge than me, I'll let him answer the question. So this is how you should do the situation. Not jump in, whether it be general or specific or whatever may be the case. Brother, you had a question?
You mentioned the name Imam Ahmed. Is the Imam Ahmed and Imam Ahmed Ibn Hanbali?
Yeah, the same. That's the same Imam Ahmed. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any question. I just have a request.
Yeah.
As you discussed about Abdullaah
Ibn Mubarak.
Ibn Mubarak, so I hope you will give some lecture about some more wise people like that.
Yeah, no, inshallah. From time to time, we'll do that, inshallah. Yeah. So you can learn more about these scholars. Okay, Mr.
My question is Imam Abdul Malik.
Imam Malik? Yeah.
The same time or like how many years difference?
No. Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, same in that generation, like after. Okay, right after. Yeah. Yeah. So Imam Ahmed is the one who wrote these things about Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak. Okay, so Imam Ahmed came after Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak, long after. So Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak was from the generation of Abu Hanifa, Sufyan ibn Uyayna. This is one generation before Imam Malik, right? So yeah, but Imam Malik did see some of the students of them as well. Yeah.
You mentioned that he went back from Iraq to Medina to return a pencil.
Yeah.
We have some shuyukh in modern day times who will then look at your fancy pen and praise it with the intention of you gifting. But at the same time, they appear to have knowledge. But do you then seek knowledge and continue to seek knowledge from them because then you're not sure what is true and what is...
No, if in that type of situation, there's a hadith the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and it's a sahih hadith, that at time, this deen of Allah, sometimes Allah will use a fasiq to even spread His religion, right? So someone with a weak heart just likes a little things from the dunya a little bit, may not necessarily be a fasiq. Fasiq is like really bad situation, right? So the ruling is, if someone is a teacher of the deen, he has certain mistakes here and there in his character, which is not really. I'll give some examples. Like let's say what brother said, that some people, and I know they are like that. Like someone, we talked about Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak returning this pencil that doesn't belong to him, but some modern day student of knowledge you might have a really nice pen with you, and he's talking about that pen non-stop, almost with the niyyah that give it to me, right? So, of course, this is not appropriate for a person of knowledge to be like this, or any Muslim, right? Because this is a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. The hand that gives is better than the hand that asks. This is for any Muslim, especially for the person who's a person of knowledge. You should be more aware of this, right? So this is something that is missing in his character. But it doesn't necessarily mean we reject anything else good from him. If he has good to offer, learn it from him. But if it's character issues, something that is like, that really ends up harming a community, all right, or harming other people, destroys them even, that's a different situation, all right? So you have to balance it out. Like somebody may come, by the qadr of Allah, sure, he has a degree from Medina University, whatever may be the case, but he almost literally became a con artist, right? Like someone, like one example, there was a person, he will go to a community and say, oh, I'm raising funds. For who? But people used to trust him. He's a sheikh, okay, didn't inquire. He will raise $50,000-$60,000, but it was for himself. No masjid, no school, nothing. He's raising money for himself, right? Alhamdulillah, he got exposed. Even the brothers of this masjid know him. And alhamdulillah, he doesn't come here anymore. Long time. Many of you may have forgotten. That's good. He actually left the country because people warned him, either get out, get out, or we're gonna, do something. So that's a different situation. That when someone's evil character now is harming the Muslim masses, you prevent him from teaching, get him away from your gatherings, so on and so forth. Okay, but somebody like a little bit, the one example I gave. Bring me Starbucks coffee, nothing but Starbucks coffee, right? When you invite me to your masjid. Okay, khalas, what can you do? It's not good. Someone should advise him privately, but if he has something good to offer, fine. Yeah. Oh, Mir, yeah.
So I have two questions, similar questions. So if you see a kafir, homeless, should you, and you have some change, and he's asking for change, should you give it to him?
Just check he's not a druggie. Because a lot of them will take your money. What you can do, this is that I know some people, they do it this way. Most likely he may be hungry. Buy him a sandwich from McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, whatever it may be the case. Give him the food. Because most of them are into drugs. You might give him the money and he's saving to smoke some weed or look for crack or whatever may be the case. Do him a favor. Yes, it's from Islam, we don't care. The homeless person is a kafir, whatever may be the case. We help him. If he needs clothes, give him clothes. If he needs food, give him the food, right? But this is not the case with everybody, right? You can tell who's into drugs and who's not. So, but a lot of them are. So you want to make sure that your money is well spent, especially if you can see the fault. Do you understand? So yeah.
Sometimes, like people begging, like, okay, I'm not going, like, I'm broke down, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So I give me like $2, so I need like $10 more. So what should I do in that situation?
Yeah, no, well, after being here for a year, I would say always verify, because Atlantic City is just out of anything, out of the way for almost everything, right? Like every now and then people will come, I'm going from New York City to Ohio or Michigan. What are you doing in Atlantic City? You literally went off route for 2.5 hours, right? So many times the stories don't match. So you want to make sure it's not somebody just with a phony excuse. If it really is, I haven't seen it happen here yet.
I'd like to add to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody is coming and lying that he's a traveler and in need and our hearts become soft. Well, there are people in this community who are in need and our hearts are hard against them.
Yeah, that's something that you want to be very mindful of, right? We have to help, no doubt. So start with your own community first, right? Like look at the example of Abdullaah Ibn Mubarak. He would take hundreds and thousands of people for Hajj. but he started with his own city first, his own city people. Then he goes to Baghdad. Okay, now you're my city people. I'm studying here. These next 2-3 years, let's go, or whatever it was, right? So from his own surrounding, he would help these people out. So inshallah ta'ala, we'll, okay, last question.
It's not a question, it's a request from somebody to ask you and the community to make dua. Very recently, just a few days ago, there was this feudal dispute, just anger flared up, and 3 people dead from one side, 4 people dead from the other side, and several in the hospital. And it's not only that people are dying, it's that now there's revenge brewing. And there are people trying to make peace, but without dua, without the, Allah willing it, peace is not expected. So
People from the family died?
See, 2 brothers and a cousin from one family dead, and 4 cousins from another family dead, and several in the hospital, the gunshot wounds and stab wounds and all that.
Oh, subhanallah. No, of course,
Not only the dead, both sides are out for revenge.
Yeah.
They're planning and plotting and doing stuff like that.
Of course, we don't want these type of problems in any Muslim family.
Where is that?
Here is a game, right?
So
Can I get something?
yeah, inshallah, may Allah make things easy for them.
Now this is in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Capital one.